Hi, everyone. My name is Claire Balva. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Blockchain Partner, which is a French startup specialized in blockchain and cryptocurrencies. Today, I'm going to talk with you about cryptocurrency and the revolution they bring to the financial world. I guess many of you already know about cryptocurrency, but I hope I can bring new elements to you. Please feel free to ask me questions in the chat room if you have some. The first thing I want to talk to you about, of course, is Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the first blockchain. Until 2012 or 2013, no one talked about blockchain because blockchain and Bitcoin were the same thing. So when you wanted to talk about blockchain, you actually talked about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency that was created in 2008, and we still don't know who created it. And the person who created Bitcoin is called Satoshi Nakamoto, but obviously it's not his or her real name. So the creator of Bitcoin is still anonymous. Bitcoin is really a revolution. Why is that? Because with Bitcoin, you can send money from peer to peer without depending on a centralized system, without depending on a centralized central intermediary. Sorry. This is a revolution because within the financial traditional system, when you want to transfer money or when you want to store digital money, you depend on a bank. You depend on a central intermediary. You have no choice. And this central intermediary has all the technical power on your money. So Bitcoin is the digital peer-to-peer money, but it's also often compared to gold. And the reasons why that is that Bitcoin is not does not depend on a specific state. It does not depend on a central bank. It is worldwide. Bitcoin is also compared to gold because it is emitted in a limited quantity. There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoins. Just like gold, gold has a limited quantity on Earth. And at first, it was quite easy to find gold. You could go to a river and basically find small amounts of gold. But today, it is much harder. You have to dig very deep. And it's the same thing with Bitcoin. At first, in 2010, for example, it was quite easy to mine new Bitcoins. But today, it's very hard. You have to spend a lot of energy. You have to buy specific machines. So Bitcoin is harder and harder to create. And that's why the last Bitcoin should be created in 2140. So in more than 100 years, we have time. But there is less and less Bitcoin being created. I know what all of you are going to say. Bitcoin is very volatile. And it is true that Bitcoin is more volatile than many assets. But the truth is Bitcoin is also less and less volatile. The volatility of Bitcoin decreases over time. Its price is determined by supply and demand, just like any asset in the world, just like company shares, for example. But when you look at the logarithmic scale at the bottom of the screen, you can see that the volatility decreases over time. And for example, in 2012 or 2013, it was quite common to see Bitcoin gain 50% of its value or lose 50% of its value. Today, it does not happen anymore. Bitcoin can gain maybe 20% in one day, but not 50%. It cannot be multiplied by 2 in one day. So it is more and more stable with time. Last thing about Bitcoin is the rise in credibility that we can see recently, especially in countries where there is a lot of inflation. I'm thinking about countries in South America, for example, in Venezuela or in Argentina, where Bitcoin is the safest bet when you want to store value in those countries, because the national currencies are decreasing in value. It is true for people, for citizens, but it is also true for companies. In the US especially, a lot of companies are investing in Bitcoin, and 30% of asset managers already have cryptocurrencies in their portfolio. At the bottom of the screen, you can see some statistics that will help you understand this. At the bottom left, you can see a comparison between the volume of trade of Bitcoin and the value of the Kenyan shilling, for example. And you can see then when the value of the Kenyan shilling decreases compared to the dollar, the value of Bitcoin trades is rising. So now we have talked about Bitcoin, but what is blockchain? Actually, blockchain is the technology behind Bitcoin. At first, blockchain was the database of Bitcoin transactions. This database is replicated on many servers around the world and is composed of blocks of transactions. That's why we call it a blockchain. Those blocks are chained to one another. All of these computers are rewarded with Bitcoins that are created for them. It's like an economic incentive for them to participate to the network. Please feel free to ask questions within the chat if you don't understand, so that I can reply in a while. So if you have to remember a definition of a blockchain, it is a digital decentralized ledger allowing the irreversible transfer and uncensorable possession of valuable digital assets. So of course it works with Bitcoin. Bitcoin has its own blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain, but it can work with many other assets. And today there are many different blockchains. The most common, the most widely used blockchains are public blockchains. A public blockchain is an open blockchain. It means that anyone can do transactions, anyone can participate to the network. For example, the Ethereum blockchain, that is the second blockchain after Bitcoin, has its own cryptocurrency called Ether, and I can buy Ether, I can do transaction, I can even buy machines to participate in Ether mining, Ether creation. So it's open to everyone, and everyone can see the transactions. Well, of course, you don't see people's names, but you can see like account numbers and the number of Ethers or the number of Bitcoins that are being transferred. On the other hand, of course, companies are quite reluctant to public blockchains because they feel they are losing control. They feel well, it is new for them and it is scary. So many companies are building permission blockchains. I put some logos here. Maybe you know them already. The Hyperledger blockchain was built by IBM and the Linux Foundation, but there are also Corda that is built by a lot of banks, and Quorum, which is a kind of version of Ethereum in a private way. A permission blockchain is a blockchain that is not opened to everyone. It is a blockchain that is only accessible to some companies, for example. As an example, maybe you can imagine a central bank and some commercial banks building a network so that they can do transactions together. Maybe they don't want private citizens accessing their network, so they're going to restrict the access. And this is what is called a permission blockchain. But of course, it is like an intranet compared to the internet. So it's a private network, but it is not very disruptive, I would say. It is quite an IT topic. Maybe you can save some costs, but you are not going to build new services with permission blockchain. If you want to do the revolution and maybe create new services for your clients, public blockchains would be more appropriate. So now we have seen what is Bitcoin, how we can do transactions, what is a blockchain. What's interesting now is tokenization. Tokenization basically enables you to create new assets on existing blockchains. These assets are called tokens. Tokens have the same characteristics as cryptocurrencies. They are liquid, they are transferable, and they usually represent a digital or a physical asset. It can be a diploma, it can be a gram of gold, It can be a part of a building, a fidelity point, a vote, company stocks, whatever. And that's what's interesting with blockchain. You can represent any asset that has value and transfer it from peer to peer without the need for a centralized intermediary. These assets are not necessarily money. It's not cryptocurrency, it's not money, but it can be money. And what we can see since last year is the rise of tokens linked to a fiat currency. It's called stable coins. Stable coins are, as you can see, coins that are stable and that are linked to a national currency. Most of them, to be honest, are linked to the US dollar, but there are some linked to other national currencies. And what's interesting here is that you can represent on a blockchain, usually on the Ethereum blockchain, an existing currency, a national currency. It means that any company, anyone, can represent a national currency on a blockchain and build new financial services with it. So it's a great application of stable coins and of tokenization in general. A very new application of tokens, very different ones, is what we call non-fungible tokens. So it's the same thing. You build an asset onto a blockchain, but here it's not going to represent a national currency. It's not going to represent a gram of gold or a gram of oil. It's going to represent a collectible asset. So maybe the clearest example that I can give you is the one on the left here. It's footballer cards. So basically the idea that this startup proposes, it's a French startup called Sorare, is to buy footballer cards that are unique or rare. They only create a specific number of cards per footballer. So people buy those cards, they can sell them back to other players afterwards, and they play with those cards. They bet on the performances of the players within the national league or within international competitions, for example. And the cards can gain in value and they gain rewards depending on the performance of the players. So it's the non-fungible tokens enable them to really own their cards, and it enables you to create new marketplaces from peer-to-peer where players can exchange their assets without depending on a centralized intermediary. Now, the third step, once you have created a lot of assets and once you can transfer them from peer-to-peer, is smart contracts. Well, smart contracts is it's a marketing phrase, but actually there are not legal contracts and they're not very smart. We're just talking about programs that are put into the blockchain to program transactions depending on events in real life, for example. And the most famous example of smart contracts is in the insurance sector. What's interesting here is that you can reimburse people in a few seconds after an event happened. I'm going to talk here about a product that was created by AXA, which is a big insurance company, but of course, many insurance companies and insurance startups created those kinds of products. The goal of this product is to reimburse the insurer when the flight is delayed. So basically, you go onto a website, you subscribe to an insurance, and if your flight has more than maybe 2 hours delay, then you get reimbursed. Of course, you are going to tell me, well, we can do that without a blockchain. It is true. If you are a big company, you can do this without a blockchain. You can do this within your own servers, because if you are a big insurance company, obviously you have a bank subsidiary or you have very good relationships with a big bank. If you are not a big insurance company, however, it is much more difficult. And well, if you're a startup, how are you going to do this without blockchain and without using cryptocurrency? Well, it's mainly impossible. So here what's interesting is that these applications and those technologies are lowering the obstacles to entry the insurance markets. So many new players are going to enter the insurance markets, and those are players that we wouldn't have seen without blockchain technologies. So it is likely that traditional insurers are going to modernize themselves, maybe not even using blockchains, but they're going to offer those kind of services to their customers because of the rise of blockchain technologies. Now, maybe more complex examples. You see that we can do insurance and that we can program transactions. It means that basically we can do any financial services with crypto assets. I have put here 3 big examples of crypto services. The first one is called Aave. It is an open source protocol that enables you to earn interest and basically to deposit crypto assets and to gain interest on what you put in there, and that people can borrow, and the interest can be either variable or stable, depending on what you choose. So Aave is a very big startup now, and it is kind of a new foundation of this decentralized finance ecosystem. The 2 other examples are also very famous in the crypto world. Yard Finance, it's basically a hedge fund in the decentralized finance ecosystem, and Uniswap, it's a decentralized exchange that works on Ethereum and that enables you to buy and sell tokens without depending on a centralized exchange that has a big database writing down all the sellers and all the buyers. So now that we have covered almost everything, well, it's very short, 20 minutes to tell you everything that exists in this world. But what I wanted to talk to you about is the new markets that are there and the new players that are going to be maybe your competitors tomorrow. The new services that exist in this ecosystem are growing. The first one, of course, I have talked about it, it's exchanges. Maybe you have heard about Coinbase in the last days because they have filed a demand at the SEC to go public. Coinbase has now a value that is bigger than almost every European bank. So those actors are huge, and they are going to be the banks of tomorrow. Today they are only working on crypto assets, but it is likely that tomorrow they are going to work on any financial assets. The second new service that exists is wallets. Within the blockchain world, you can own your money, own your digital money, and that's the key point of all this. With the wallet services, you can own your digital money just like you own your physical money, just like you own your coins, for example. So those wallets are really key in this ecosystem. Some platforms, some exchange platforms also offer wallet services, but not all of them. And there are very famous actors like Ledger, for example, who is a French actor, who offers a cold wallet service. It's like a USB key, which enables you to store your cryptocurrency. So you can own maybe thousands or billions of dollars within a USB key. There are also wallets like Argent, which is digital wallet that works within your phone. It's an online application. I have talked about financial services at the bottom on the left of the slide here with Aave, but also its competitors like Compound. They offer financial services, complex financial services working on blockchain and crypto assets. And finally, insurers. As you can imagine, all this ecosystem is very new, and it's important to bring security to those crypto applications, because there can be smart contract default, for example. You know, those programs that you put onto a blockchain, they can have bugs like any program. But the problem is, once a program is put into a blockchain, you cannot stop it. You cannot rewrite it. You cannot modify it. So it is very important to audit it, of course, but also to offer an insurance on those kind of services, so that people can use those services very safely. So there are new insurers in this ecosystem like Nexus Mutual and Cover. To conclude, I wanted to talk to you about the three main steps that we have covered here. The first one is that cryptocurrencies offer a new way to trade internationally, and that especially Bitcoin can be compared to digital gold and can replace the worldwide reference values that exist. The second step is tokenization. You can represent any asset, physical asset or digital asset, onto a blockchain and make it liquid, transferable worldwide. And the third one is programmability. You can program those assets. You can program the events of transactions in cryptocurrency, but also in those tokens, in those new crypto assets. Thank you very much for listening. I hope that I can answer all of your questions now. We have still almost 5 minutes left, so please feel free to ask me anything. No questions. All right. If there are no questions, well, I've been happy to talk to you. Please feel free to contact me if you have any question. My email is just here. Well, thank you very much. Goodbye.